Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Surprise! Spring one on you. Sterling and I have been wanting to get together and just talk for a little bit, so why not? I was going to do a pre-record, but I'm going to bring you guys into the conversation too. Today we're going to talk about why women hate the red pill. I think I've done exactly this topic before, but we need to give Sterling some therapy. He's starting to take flack. He's over the target right now. So we have to bring our brother in and we have to talk to him. Let him know what's going on. Let him know what to expect. Hey! Wait, there we go. I get it. We don't need that on today. How's it going? How's it going? How's it going? How's it going? I'll take the X. There you go. All right. So you did a show yesterday on your channel. I so wanted to call. I was just unavailable. I could not call in. I hate it when I get I start seeing things or I'll watch shows or whatever. Like I was watching Myron's show, Fresh Fit podcast last night, and it was pretty late, and I was watching on my iPad, and they're like, call in. I'm like, I don't live in the studio, man. I can't just up and do that. So, but I did want to talk to you about what you got into on your show yesterday, because you've been taking some heat, my friend. So let everybody know what's going on, and then we'll get into why the topic of this show is why women hate the red pill.
Oh, God, yeah, I get a little bit of heat. So it was actually very ironic. I posted this kind of like basically a testimonial, actually, from my sexual dominance escalation course, where I teach guys how to be more dominant in the bedroom. Heaven forbid a man teach men that. And the screenshot I posted was actually of a woman sending me a DM saying, "Thank you for teaching men all this stuff. Thank you for teaching me how to do this stuff properly." And then I had a bunch of male and female feminists chime in from my industry and tell me why I'm such a bad person for trying to teach men this stuff.
That's
the short version.
Were you primarily getting it from people that you work with, and for those of you who don't know Sterling Cooper, let the home audience know exactly what you do for a living, my friend.
Yeah, I'm an adult film star. I work in pornos.
Yes. So now you feel the irony. Right?
Yeah, and actually, it was ironically none of the No, there was okay. The main people who were coming after me I've never met in person, and we've never worked together. So that's the first thing. However, once they started tweeting stuff out, then a couple of girls who I have worked with in the past chimed in, and of course, it's the thing I always love is like how much a woman will completely flip her script on her opinion of you. When she's pissed off. Like if you've said something that pisses her off, you were the devil incarnate.
Yeah.
But like 2 weeks before that, she was sliding in my DMs, asking me to shoot content with her. Yeah. So I've got to have a sense of humor about it.
I think it's forcing women to have sort of like to acknowledge cognitive dissonance. That's the hardest part, right?
I think I'm starting to. I actually woke up last night in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. I woke up and I had this like brain, like a burst of creativity. I had to get my laptop out and start writing down some notes. And it was, I was trying to come up with some because I want to get some girls on my show, some adult film stars, right? And I want to ask them in the correct way, like to try and elicit these kinds of truths out of them. because you and I both know that what I'm teaching is factually accurate. That women want a guy to lead in the bedroom. Women want a man who is dominant in the bedroom. All evidence bears this out. Like women being very, very open about it especially on Twitter. Very, very open, especially on my side of Twitter. Very, very open about they like a guy who can dominate and lead. And the ultimate irony of this was that one of the guys who was coming after me is a guy who practices BDSM. But obviously a very, very male feminist guy who practices BDSM.
I tell you what's funny is like when especially people that work in your industry, it's strange for me to hear guys like you're saying. There's guys that are male adult porn stars, right? Who are male feminists. Really? Very, very much so. Do you think they're like that? And this was something I think I chatted in on your show. I said, do you think that they are sort of like the sneaky effer mating strategy, the cuttlefish, right? I don't know if are you familiar with that analogy?
Yeah, that I think I'm vaguely familiar with that. I've definitely heard the sneaky fucker. And
the thing that gets me is like, you're a male porn star. Like, why would you need to be? why would that even like enter your brain?
Yeah, I think there is definitely an aspect of that because I do see some guys who really play up the like I support strong independent women. I am a male feminist. Consent is sexy kind of narrative. They really play it up. And you look at them, and they're like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like physiognomy. Physiognomy. They got the look
that conveys traits. Yeah.
They got the look of a soy boy about them,
really?
Right? So you're like, okay, there's something going on here. There's a connection here. And then you look at guys who. So I mean, look, by all standards, I'm a bit of a dumbass. For putting my opinions out on the internet about this sort of stuff. And I knew from the start that if I started talking about this, then I'm going to get cancelled because it's inevitable. They don't like my industry is very, very unaccepting of contradictory opinions or any opinions that would go against the sisterhood uber alles, as you would say. And there's guys in my industry who I know are at least red pill-ish. They're leaning. They're not male feminists. At least they're not, maybe not as far as me, but they're somewhere closer to me. And they just shut up. They don't say a word. All they do is they put their head down and they work.
Go along to get along. Yeah.
Yeah, they go along, and it's fine. They get endless vagina on tap, which is fantastic, and they get paid for it. But I'm the kind of guy who just I hate being told what to do, and I cannot stand censoring myself. So it's inevitable. I will. But the good thing is that all people who are angry at me are people I've already had sex with. So, but there's a new batch of 18-year-olds coming into this industry every month, ROLLO. So lucky me, can keep working.
They don't know who you are. Exactly. Work with this guy. Okay. So do you, I think you and I have talked about this before. It's like, do you feel like, I know how you feel like sort of personally, do you feel like you have to sort of restrain yourself a little bit, or like, because if you want to keep working and still keep making money, I mean, I know that you're trying to transition into other things as well, like, or maybe add other things right now.
Yeah.
But do you feel like you like because last time we talked, which is a while ago, you were saying like in the industry, there are certain people that you work with who are very kind of quote, for lack of a better term, woke as you can get, I guess, in porn. And then there's like, I don't know, is it like the elite tier, like the real professionals all the way down to like, amateur home porn or some shit like that?
Yeah, they're very, very woke in my industry, especially because the sort of industry, the industry culture comes out of Los Angeles. So that it kind of adopts that culture of of wokeness, of social justice warriorism. So it's kind of inevitable that everyone sort of falls in line with this, because the women really run our industry, really. Because like they're the one. Maybe back in like the 80s, the producers and stuff had the power. Nowadays, it's very much about the women can't like very much run it because no one dares to tell a female actress on set like no.
Really?
All she hears all day, all she hears is guys kissing her ass. Like the makeup lady's telling her how great she is. The PA is telling her how great she is. The audio guy is telling her how great she is. The director's telling her how great she is. I have to tell her she's not like if she shits on my penis, I have to pretend it doesn't bother me. Like this kind of stuff. So they can do no wrong.
Do you think they do? Do you think they pander to that because they just simply don't want to lose the talent, or is it more because they presume these girls are just? I mean, they're 18 years old, right? I don't know. I forget what you said the demographic was. 18 to 24, I think, is what it was.
Yeah, okay. It's a bit of that as well. It's
because
they're younger girls, so they can't take criticism as much. So there's definitely that aspect to it. But it's more so, I think, that they don't want to lose the talent and that they don't want to lose the girl. And they sure as hell don't want to get upset and storm off set. Because if she does that, then that's thousands of dollars wasted. So it's really a case, I think it's more so that. It's more so a case of, look, here's how we have to be. We have to put up with a bit of drama and a bit of attitude from some of these girls. Not all these girls, not all of them, don't get me wrong. But just some of them. And... that's the game we have to play in order to get the scene done. Because if you talk to, and I've talked to directors behind everyone else's back, right? I've talked to directors on my own private, and they'll very much agree with me on a lot of things. But they wouldn't dare express some of these opinions online like I do.
Do you think there are some talent that are like they want to work with you because you're opinionated like that, or?
There's only a couple. Because I know that there are a couple of female talent who like resonate with what I say. They're pretty like libertarian, like non-woke based kind of female talent. But there's literally only about 4 of them. It's not many.
Well, let me read Peter here. He says, big point that causes the bottom 80% average Joes to hesitate with taking control is consent. M2 and so on. What types of covert signals do you notice from women that kind of say go for it? Just curious. A lot of guys are like that too. It's like I know a lot of like I've said this before. It's like you have to when it comes to seduction, asking permission is anti-seductive. It's like because you are presuming a deference to that woman. And I think maybe, in fact, you just described that, right? I mean, everybody kisses these girls' asses on camera, and that's all they ever get is ass kissing all the time. But yet, like when you go and you post something on Twitter, then people lose their minds because you're saying, look, you need to be more commanding in, command presence, let's just say, in the bedroom. And that's I mean, there's a reason why 50 Shades of Grey was sold 65 million copies in like the first 3 weeks that it was available. And it wasn't because it was so widely advertised. It was a self-published book. It's because that's what, it's like, it's the medium is the message, right? The medium in this case is 65 million women bought 50 Shades of Grey in the first 3 weeks that it was published. And then it's gone on to become one of the top selling books of all time. That's the medium. The message is, but it's just a fantasy. We're all, we're not really like that. We don't have, no, you are like that because that's, what is the medium telling you? And so, when you're on Twitter or when you're having discussions, that's words, right? That's words passing back and forth and it's ideas for sure. But then you have to sort of take that discussion out of the laboratory and watch and see what happens in the wild. So what did you think? What do you think about what Peter was saying here?
What was the question?
How do you know? And I've heard women say this too. It's like if it's like another thing I wanted to make mention of on your show was women want a guy who just gets it. They want an alpha male who, again, however abstract term, an alpha male who knows what he's doing. And by virtue of his behaviors, by virtue of his attitudes, by virtue of the things he will and will not take or tolerate or do or just instinctively, naturally does, that display that telegraphs whether that guy gets it or that guy does not get that. And so when a woman is giving you sort of indicators of interest, one of the things, and maybe this is a shit test in today's day and age, but it's like, woman expects you to just get it, right? And part of that is consent.
Yeah, they expect you to like be able to read kind of every single little subtle body language cue, and that's what I try to teach men. And this is actually a perfect question for this the screenshot I'm going to show in a minute.
All right.
Because this is the exact problem. This is the exact question that this there was an escort back in Australia. She was having a go at me. Yeah, here we go. So I'll just scroll up. And so this is me talking about the course that I teach, and this screenshot here is actually a woman messaging me saying, "Thank you for teaching guys this," right? And then this escort here from Australia, she chimes in, "Do you teach consent education in any of your guides as the first step to any sexual encounter?" Which is it goes completely against how we know real life sexual encounters work, how real passion works. You don't sit down and go over a checklist with your partner. That's not how the real world works. And yet this narrative that is perpetuated in, at least in my realm of Twitter, so sex worker Twitter, is that consent is sexy, and which we both know is the complete opposite. Like, nothing would dry up a vagina faster than sitting down and asking, "Hell, can I touch your elbow? Can I touch your hair? Can I kiss your neck? Can I put my hand on your leg?" Like, asking consent every step of the way. No, what they actually want is a guy who can read if he is on a woman's like comfort zone. Like, he knows where he can he knows right where he can push it, and then no further.
Yeah,
he just gets it, like you say. And I do teach guys this in my sexual dominance escalation video course. I teach them exactly how to do this, and I teach them exactly because I show them body language. I'm not talking about it; I'm showing it with real, actual demonstrations of hanky panky. So you see where I put my hands. You see the girl's facial expressions. You see her body language, and this idea of me, like I said, I responded to it. Like, I actually do teach guys this, and I'll share the next one with you as well. It's so hard for a woman who comes from this, place to wrap her head around the idea that I could possibly teach this to a man. That a man could possibly learn this, because in her mind, in women's minds, and this is what we sort of you were chiming into my chat the other day. In a woman's mind, men are either, in my opinion, they think men are either born alpha or they're born beta, and those two things never change. And what we all know is that men, like a high value man, is someone who has built himself up over time. A high value man wasn't born high. Like, you could say you were born with the silver spoon in your mouth. It doesn't necessarily make you a high value man. Like, a guy who's built, like, okay, let's just take an example, say Elon Musk, like, made millions and billions of dollars. Like, he wasn't born that way. He took
nobody handed it to him. Yeah.
No one handed it to him. It took years. It wasn't inherently in him. He had to build it. He had to forge it. He had to create it. That takes time. But because a woman's value is innate, like, they're born with beauty. They're born with their virginity. They're born with these things, right? It's something they have to preserve over time, and then it declines. So they never have to work for their value in the same way that a man does. So to them, they can't really, it's the solipsism coming out. They can't really comprehend the idea that a man might be able to go from being a beta male to being an alpha male. Right.
They don't have any frame of reference for that. And that's a real common problem right now in a lot of different realms, not just the sexual realm as well. I have talked to guys, I think it was on the Masculine Geek show or something like that. We were talking about like superhero characters, or like Star Wars, like Rey from the latest abortion of a trilogy that happened a few years ago, and they were talking about why is it that like certain characters that actually have a pretty long storied past are Mary Sue's, right? They simply just exist, and they have their superpowers, and Rey knows how to use a lightsaber, and Captain Marvel just, she just comes in and just kicks ass and takes names, and no process, no hero's journey, no building, no layering. And my argument was that because these characters are not meant to be like, they're not meant to tell a story. They are vehicles for a narrative, which is girls can be tough too, right? That kind of thing. And as a result, they tend to be sort of cardboard, one-dimensional characters, and nobody can get behind them, and thus the sort of franchise flops as a result of that. But the reason for that is because the people who are doing the writing of those characters and of those stories don't know the hero's journey, because they don't have a frame of reference with the male experience of being going from zero to hero, right? From being 15-year-old Spider-Man getting bit by the radioactive spider, and now suddenly you have these superpowers, and you have to learn how to, with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, well, that's part of that journey, and that's part of that building and layering up there. It's the same thing when I think I mentioned this on your show, when I was commenting anyways, is we were talking about, like, is there such thing as a natural alpha? And I really wanted to come in and talk to you about that too, because I've written like at least 4 different essays about the fact that there's no such thing as a natural. There's no such thing as a natural born alpha male. And I know I'm going to ruffle a lot of feathers with that. But the thing is this, are there guys who are genetically gifted? Yes. Are there guys who are like mesomorphs and they're just naturally muscular and they're naturally athletic and they have that, they exude that kind of, are they 6 foot tall? Yeah, of course there are. And those guys had an advantage earlier on, but they still had to go through that same hero's journey, right? Going from 0 to alpha. But it was easier for them because they learned the process quicker, because women gave them, that rewarded them with attention. Women rewarded them with sexuality. That's why I always say it's a horrible idea to ask like a natural alpha male like advice on like how to deal with women, because the guy will go, I don't know, man, just smile at them. I just smile at them and they just come on to me and just, give me a blowjob. Like they don't know why they're successful, but there was still a process to go from being that kid who didn't know what he was doing to the guy who's like, I don't know, she just sucks my dick. That's what I'm talking about. It's like it's the same process. It's just for guys who didn't have that advantage, it's going to take you a little bit longer to figure that out.
Yeah, and I always think that it's, if I look at a guy who's sort of naturally good with women, right? Because I've seen guys who are naturally good with women and who don't look like the Chad. I've seen plenty of examples. I've met plenty of examples of that in my life. And so to me, I've just sort of formulated this idea that, okay, well, at some point especially during their formative years or their adolescence, they had positive reference experiences with women that reinforced that they were the prize, that reinforced, like these sort of correct mental frames that we talk about. And then because it happened so early on in their life, it was never a problem through their adolescence and through their 20s and into adulthood. Whereas a lot of other guys, they have the wrong conditioning early on, and so they have to unlearn a ton of stuff when they get to being in their 20s or 30s, or heaven forbid, later on in life when they get zeroed out.
Yeah, they need a remedial lesson, I think. They kind of have to go back and just sort of like, and unfortunately, sometimes the process includes those guys getting zeroed out and going through some point of crisis or trauma or whatever else. So that they can sort of like say, okay, what I've been doing is not working. I'm going to try something different. I think one of the reasons why you ran into such pushback on these women once, like, well, what about consent? What about this? Of course, that's going to be the first thing that comes out. Now, when women today start, and especially just anonymously, right? Maybe you know this person, maybe you don't. I don't know.
No, I don't know.
So just like it suddenly, whenever you are trying to teach a guy about how to be better with women, whether that's like you're going to deal with them better, or it's going to, how are you going to get laid? Is it pickup artistry, or is it just simply like understanding women's nature? And that might change your behavior. That might change you as a man and improve you in some way, so that whether your chances or whatever, getting with that girl is one thing, or just simply having a better relationship with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever it is. That's an unknown, but women automatically presume that when a guy tries to teach another guy about women's nature, that's an intrinsic threat to women, because what it's saying is that guy should know. He should already get it. He should stay in his lane. And the very fact that he had to go and learn it or had to figure it out, however he did that, like organically, or he took your classes, or he read my book, or whatever it is, the fact that guy had to find some way to educate himself to be better able to interact with women means that there's a suspicion that guy's not really authentic. Like he's not really who he says he is. And that right there is that keys in on what I've called the existential fear of women, which is the existential fear of women is to become impregnated or is to like have sex with a guy who she believes is an alpha, is a high value man. I guess that's the vernacular of today, right? It was a high value guy. She thinks he's the surgeon. She thinks he's going to make partner in the law firm. She thinks whatever. And then after she has sex with that guy, possibly getting pregnant. Now, again, whether they had protection on or whatever is irrelevant because our evolved minds, when a woman has sex with a guy, there's always that sort of subconscious, well, I could get pregnant from this guy. Do I really want to start a family with this guy? Because women have sex for different reasons than men do. And so when that guy is not the surgeon, is not the attorney, and he's really like the barista or he's the, sandwich artist at Subway, that's when it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I was stupid enough to go out. That's the fear, because there's a fear that woman could, become pregnant, or she could lose her life, or and also I would say this, and I don't think I've ever said this before. I think there's also an ego investment that goes along with that, because a lot of women want to believe that their feminine intuition is infallible. And that, oh, I knew he was like that, right? And then they have sex with the guy, and it proves that she's not as infallible as she thinks she is. So when you start teaching these guys, here's how you deal with women. Here's how you need to dominate in the bedroom. That's why they come back with consent, because the consent is, well, you need to ask me permission to have authority over me.
Yeah.
That's really what that conversation boils down to.
And what they don't realize is that I have so many testimonials from guys who are I'm not just teaching this stuff to, single guys. I'm teaching this stuff to married men and people who are in long-term committed relationships who are hitting me back up with emails saying, oh my God, the response my wife had to what you just taught me, like this one thing you taught me, my wife said, that's the best sex we've had in like 10 years. You'd think maybe I'd get some praise from women for this. They're like, oh, thank you for teaching men how to dick us down properly. Thanks. Nice. We get a much better, our men are better because of it. But yeah, like they can't hack the idea of, they really can't hack the idea of true submission.
Right. Because
true submission is about respect. Like true submission is not about it's not about forcing anyone to do anything. It's willing. It's gleefully willing submission, which is something that really rubs up against feminists.
Genuine desire, yes, and that's the thing that gets me is like when I read this stuff right here. Where'd you put that? Let me grab that again. Like when I'm reading this stuff, like how make sure that you have a safe word already established, and make sure that, and it's this almost paranoid need for security, but yet it is entirely antithetical to giving up, right? To giving that authority, to giving over to that guy, which is what, which is exactly what women want, right? And like for me to even say that, or for you to say that, or for you to put it in a tweet or something, it sounds horribly misogynistic or horribly sexist or horribly whatever. But we're looking at 50 Shades of Grey, which sold 65 million copies in its first month, right? So, I mean, there's the talk about it, and then there's the actual, the actual, medium is the message.
I think this other screenshot here is a really good synopsis of sort of her thought process here. She's like, so I came back at it because she's an escort, right? So I came back at it like, look, I understand that like in your situation, because I'm like, okay, I'm reading into her solipsism, right? I'm seeing, well, she's obviously looking at the world from her own unique perspective because she's an escort, so she deals with clients and they actually communicate like what they're going to do to her before they see her. So that's kind of the world she lives in. But she's like, oh, I'm not asking for my situation. My concern is for clueless men reading your guide. And taking it at face value that is what women want, and then they don't ask the question to consent of your teachings, nor seek consent before they act. They think it's this. They think it really rubs me the wrong way about this kind of stuff is that they think all of the men watching this are rapists. Like they think that they think these men do not have the capacity for self-control. They think they're going to read some words or watch a video, and then they're going to run outside and sexually assault the first woman they come across.
Mm-hmm.
It is just the most condescending bullshit I have ever seen in my life, and it's frankly like this is it just inspires me to keep doing more of what I'm doing, because I'm like, well, look, I understand where these guys have come from. I used to be clueless myself. I was a clueless guy a long time ago, and I had to learn this shit. And I wish that's why I write the stuff I do. That's why I make the courses I do, because I'm writing and the stuff that I wish someone had taught me 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, when you were going over this, I thought that too, and I've heard this a million, and not just from women. I've heard this from guys who are like, they're really hesitant about the red pill, or they got into the red pill and now suddenly they want to become purple pill guys, right? They'll be like, don't you think that the red pill is going to radicalize men to be potential rapists, right? Potential killers, potential this, potential that, and it's like, well, if how else, if they're already imbalanced already, anything that I'm going to do is not going to make them any more imbalanced than they already were to begin with. Okay. Yeah. The other thing, I think what she's worried about, like what most women worry about when it comes to consent and stuff like that, is that you're going to teach a guy who shouldn't be approaching her in the first place to learn the skills to get around that feminine intuition, to get around that, to trick her, to actually get around that and be the guy that she slept with and go, oh my God, I can't believe I just slept with the beta. I thought he was alpha last night. Now of course he's a chump. He doesn't know what he's actually talking about. That's one of the reasons I think that a lot of women had a real problem with the early pickup artists, is because you had like guys and now yourself included, me too, right? Teaching guys how to be better, how to understand, how to read social cues. Like even John from Modern Life Dating, body language mastery, whatever you want to say about the guy. The thing is, the bottom line is that he's teaching guys skills that in some way will make them look more attractive, but women want to everything about women's intuition, everything quote unquote intuition, the hypergamous filter is all about ascertaining honest cues, ascertaining whether this guy is somebody worth sleeping with or not sleeping with. So when a guy is a natural alpha, he doesn't have to ask consent. He doesn't have to go up there and, he doesn't have to, you don't have to ask permission for this. That woman wants to get with him in the first place, and they get into what's called vibing, right? And you and I are talking, I was listening to Myra, and I've heard Hotep Jesus talk about this before. I hear women say this all the time. If I'm vibing with the guy, then yeah, I'll probably want to have sex with him. What is vibing? The fact that I have to ask that, or if I could figure out how to teach guys, and that's essentially what we do, to vibe with a woman. Imagine if I go and I say, here's this, autistic, kid who just doesn't know what to do with women, and I teach him how to vibe. And now I've basically taught him to affect the greatest fear that woman has. Of course she's going to be upset about that. Of course she's not going to like me doing that.
Yeah. But the thing is that that autistic guy is going to eventually become the man that she actually will genuinely be attracted to.
Yeah.
But just through trial and error and experience of positive experiences with women, he's going to eventually turn into the guy that she would have fallen for, at the very beginning anyway.
Well, and again, what you were saying before is it's the guys that come back to you, or the women who come back to you and they say, I can't believe my man actually, satisfied me in bed. I can't believe that he actually was experimentative enough. I think a lot of guys, maybe you run into this. I'll ask you this question. Do you think that guys are afraid to experiment in bed? Do you think they're afraid to do what you're saying? Hey, you know what? Pull her hair, take it from behind, that kind of stuff. Like have some sort of map. You do this all the time in all of your courses. I remember the course you did back in October, right? When we were doing the Rule Zero online convention thing. I thought that was the most fascinating of the better than mine. I'll give it to you. You win. That was a really good course or seminar. But when that was over, I was left with this impression of like, guys are, I hope guys will do this, but I think that most guys are just too scared to experiment because they think that she's the only one for me. And if I rock the boat, then she's going to divorce me or something's going to.
Yeah. I find it super ironic that all these women are out here, these sort of feminists are worrying that men are going to run around and sexually assault women, when the men are most men are either too afraid to even talk to a woman, or they're too afraid of getting me too'd to even touch a woman. Like that's the real world that we live in. Is that men are actually afraid of this shit because of all the Me Too stuff. Yet women are living in this delusional fantasy world where men are actually, assaulting or all potential rapists. Now, I do get a lot of guys saying stuff like, "Oh, I didn't know I could be this kind of guy in bed. I feel so like, thank you for showing me how to do this really simple thing that shows that makes me more dominant. Now I have so much more confidence."
Right.
And it doesn't take much, A lot of guys are not as experimental in the bedroom as one might think. As pornography.
I think exactly. That's because that's the easy way out, right? It's easier to just go rub one out than it is to try to like rock the boat with your girlfriend or your wife or whatever in bed. Like say, okay, turn over, honey. Like something as simple as that, right? Guys won't do that because they're already in. I think they're already in this sort of frame of mind where they have to defer to that female authority. They have to okay, well, she's my only source of sex, so I have to do it the way that she says she's comfortable. I'm comfortable doing it this way. Like she doesn't know what she really likes, or she doesn't understand why she's pining after Jason Momoa and Aquaman, or like why she wants to get with the guy who just takes her and pins her to the bed and rides her to glory. She doesn't know why she wants that. In fact, she probably feels bad about wanting that in the first place, and the guy's just there. God forbid he ever take any chances because that's his one and only, shot at reproduction, but it's also his only source of sexuality if he's married or whatever else. And so he kind of just goes along to get along and doesn't do anything until it gets so bad, you live in such a sexist marriage or such a sexist relationship or whatever, until it gets so bad where either she cheats, he cheats, or it gets to the point where he's got to do something different.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask. Hold on, I got Peter here real quick. He says the guys below the attraction floor have to learn things like reading her eyes, biting her lip, her giggles, and all of that stuff she does. I personally think consent is just a society-wide shit test to filter. You think it's a shit test? The consent?
Not necessarily, because I've actually had this kind of conversation with a couple of guys I know who are quite extreme in some of their views, right? And they talk about women sort of wanting to we all I've read and I've recommended guys read My Secret Garden by Nancy Friday, right? And this book talks a lot about heavy-handed sexual activity, shall we say. I'm not going to use the four-letter word that begins with R on your show. Those kind of fantasies. This book is basically a compilation of women anonymously writing in their sexual fantasies. And a large chunk of them are those kinds of fantasies. Now, I have some friends who've dabbled with the idea that a lot of women kind of really need that kind of, especially in a society, that kind of a release of just complete losing control. Now, I don't agree with that because I've worked alongside a lot of women who have had that happen to them in real life, who have been sexually assaulted, and it does not do them any good.
No.
In any way, shape, or form. And so there is a place for consent. And there is a place for understanding about where the boundary is. But it's not something that you should be, in my opinion, it's not something you should be verbalizing and logically dictating on a contract before you take each other's clothes off. Because that is antithetical to romance. It's antithetical to passion. It's anti-sexy.
Yeah.
And I know this because that's exactly what we have to do for rough scenes in my job. And it ruins the chemistry. Yeah.
Let me ask, sorry. Can Stirling confirm if he thinks Ron Jeremy is just a victim of the Me Too rage? At his peak value, Elon Musk was still a simp for Amber Heard. Let me tell you something about Elon Musk. I don't know whether or not Elon has sort of had a change of heart. But I will say this is that money, fame, status, I don't care how much money you have, it does not cure beta. There's only one thing that cures beta, and that starts right up here. So anyways, what do you think about Ron Jeremy?
So Ron Jeremy is an interesting situation. So I actually got to meet Ron Jeremy last year. I actually got to work alongside of him in a project. And the man clearly has dementia.
Really?
And that was a year ago. And he was clearly in late onset dementia, like Alzheimer's. So he'd had it for a while. And if anyone who knows, my grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's, so I'm familiar with
my father passed away from Alzheimer's as well.
There you go. And one of the symptoms of it especially with men, actually, as far as I'm aware, especially with men, is one of the symptoms of Alzheimer's or dementia is that they get sexually aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Or aggressive in general, but they also sort of that can play out sexually.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would not surprise me at all if Ron Jeremy actually did some of the things he was accused of in a like demented state of mind. But prior to that, he'd been cancelled from going to any conventions for a long time because what he would do, because Ron Jeremy was in porn in like the 60s. He's been around for a long ass time when it was a totally different world. Mm-hmm. When like in his whole life, he's had women come up to him and allow him to grope their breasts. And then he's been doing that his whole life.
Right.
And then in the last like 10-ish years, he was still doing it at conventions and people didn't like it. And
yeah, because now he's this old creepy dude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he hadn't moved on. But everyone else had.
That's your moves. Yeah, no. No, not today. I thought that was fun. I've used this before. I have you seen maybe you have on Netflix there's the Motley Crue biography that's called The Dirt. It was actually written by Neil Strauss. You should watch it. It's actually pretty good. I loved it because it's like that's my era, right? That's where where I grew up too. But I remember watching that, and there was like the scene where Nikki Sixx is doing like lines of coke off of a stripper's ass or something like that, or they're just like, I mean that's what was going on. They're rock stars, right? And I knew as soon as the credits were rolling, I go, I bet I could go on Twitter, or I could go online right now and I could find a review of this by some chick who's just completely appalled that this shit could ever have happened. And I'm like, sure enough, there it is, 3 or 4 of them right there. And it's like, yeah, because it was a different time, and that's what was going on. And we weren't so uptight. We had a sense of humor about shit back then, and today I think what gets me, and I think a lot of guys, particularly sort of beta male, not say beta male, but like guys of the last 2 generations who just simply don't get women's cues. Like we were just what Peter was saying, it's biting lips and getting that eye contact and understanding, social cues. I don't think that guys really get that as much as they used to, because we had to back in the day. I mean, you do, because you're an older than most of these guys are anyways. And I certainly am. And I can remember I remember thinking like when it came out with like yes means yes and no means no, and the consent thing was going on. And then I started writing, I actually read some articles about enthusiastic consent. And so we went from yes means yes to no means no to now, if it's not sex that I'm like 100% like tearing his clothes off, I want to bang him now, then that's kind of what's called gray area sex. It's easier to have it with him than not have it with him. Do you know who Aziz Ansari is? He's the comedian guy. I believe maybe he was Canadian. I'm not really sure, but he got into like sort of a Me Too. I don't know what actually became of all that, but that's when I started hearing things like enthusiastic consent. And I'm like, okay, so if a woman is just really just tearing your clothes off and wants to bang you and all this other stuff, and then later on she has regrets about having done that, was it actually enthusiastic consent, or was it like him just reading your cues wrong and either assaulting you or the R word, right? I mean, was it that, or what? And again, it becomes this arbitrary kind of thing, but yet I think a lot of guys get confused, and that's why they hate me or they hate you, is because they're like, I can't figure it out. Yeah. I can't figure it out, and it's too dangerous for me to try to figure it out. And yeah, those guys, those are the ones that your girl in the Twitter feed there might have to worry about, because she thinks you're going to teach them how to, read a few things, and it's going to get carried away from there.
It's good. I think because guys don't really deal very well with mixed messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're getting one message.
They don't understand. I don't necessarily think it's about mixed messages. I just think it's like interpreting the messages that are there. They just don't know what to do with them, right?
Because this whole idea of like enthusiastic consent, right? And any guy who has made out with a bunch of women will have an experience in his life where he's been, getting hot and heavy with a woman, and she said, "No, stop," with a big smile on her face, and like playfully, and he has continued and she has loved it, and they've had a very passionate evening together, and they've probably gone on to be in a relationship together. Mm. That is on if you were to write that down like a teleprompter, like a dictator, in dictation, like a court, like what's a person who's stenographer sat there and wrote it down, it would sound like sexual assault.
Yeah,
but you're missing all the context of body language, of vibing,
right?
All these things that are crucial to being able to understand consent in the first place.
Right. Peter put this out. He says, to clarify, that's what I mean. The verbalization of it and requiring that it be verbalized. I was hypothesizing, I guess, that is the S of the shit test, to see what he will do and how he will react. Sorry if I was confused.
No, you weren't confusing, mate. Well, like, it's not really a shit test if she, like, if it's some random woman on the internet telling you need to, like, verbalize it. That's not really a shit test. A shit test only happens when you're with a woman who, like, is actually going to have sex with you. And I've never at least been in a situation where a woman, like, we're getting hot and heavy, and she stops me and whips out some paperwork. Mm-hmm. That's never happened to me. So
yeah. Red Pill Mike, thank you for that 100. Now, Red Pill Mike, you get the Don DeMarco. That's how much it costs, just so you know. Mike says, let's see, has given women the advantage. Me Too has given women the advantage point to fall back to. Actually, I think it's a threat point, but I'll explain that later. When they have fully submitted to a man who does not fulfill the Disney fantasy, that is a self-created fallacy. The sole purpose of the movement is to slowly being exposed as feminist charged sexual power trip. Actually, Red Pill Mike, I would argue that Me Too was intentionally weaponized.
Mm-hmm. You're trying, because the whole idea of retroactively withdrawing consent is bonkers. Mm-hmm. It's because, and here's the reason why it's bonkers, because women live in a reality that is shaped by their current emotional state. Mm-hmm. So if she likes you right now, then you've always been a great guy. You've always been an attractive guy. If you're an asshole to her right now, you've always been an asshole. You've always been, which is exactly what I'm seeing with my co-stars on Twitter right now. Because I'll say something which I don't agree with, and I've always been an asshole, despite the fact that like 2 weeks ago they were hitting me up in my DMs to shoot with me.
I wonder if
that was the retroactively pulled back that consent.
Do you think that some of that has to do with the fact that they are on Twitter and that they have an audience? I think there's a presumption that when you go on Instagram or when you go on social media, particularly if you're a woman, that you have this, I've got 50,000 followers. So having that conversation with you on Twitter is a different conversation she's going to have with you when you're about to do a shoot.
Is also the fact that it's a groupthink mentality in our industry. Mm-hmm. And women don't want to be ostracized from the group, so they will make sure that they chime in and say, "Oh yes, I think he's a piece of shit too."
Yeah, herd immunity.
Don't cancel me. I'm even though I've shot with him recently. Don't cancel me. I also think he's a piece of shit. Just to make sure you include me in your little group over here, because these women don't say this kind of stuff on other social media platforms,
right?
Where we follow each other. They don't express those. It's like Twitter is just this place where everyone feels like, I mean, that's the whole point of it. Everyone just expresses their opinions on things. Mm-hmm. So they'll always sort of chime in on this stuff.
Do you think that there is a sense of fear of like you giving away the game? Like I get guys that tell me this all the time. They'll say like, Rollo, should I tell this girl or my wife or my girlfriend or this girl that I like or that I'm should I tell her that I am Red Pill? Like, should I reveal the game to her? And I've said that, I've explained this before, but I want to hear what you had to think about that.
No. You take away, as soon as a guy starts to logically explain anything, you take away mystery. Mm-hmm. And mystery and intrigue is your greatest ally with women. They want it's
imagination.
Like my friend said it really well. Like a man who is good with women is simply a man who out-womens women.
Mm-hmm.
Think about everything that women do to men, and like it's all like they're not direct, they're not straight to the point, they're not logical, they're like there's open loops everywhere. They can't start a conversation and finish it. They start a conversation, then they start a different conversation. Like all these kinds of things, they're just like feminine, female like ways of communicating. And as soon as if you communicate that way with women, you're out-womaning women, and they go nuts for it.
I think a lot of guys like want to, I think there's almost like a intra-sexual competition amongst guys when it comes to that kind of stuff, because if you understand women too well, then you're becoming like a woman. And that, of course, puts them out of the competition because you're the guy that just gets it. Now, it's not that you're simping to that person, it's that, or that woman, it's that you understand her nature well enough that you can play the game with her. Like I've said before, women want to play with her and play with her. So you're playing the game, but you're not giving away the game.
I also think a lot of guys have this misguided sense of like morality when it comes like, oh, I have to be completely 100% forthcoming with everything that I know.
Everything on
otherwise, I am somehow manipulating and lying, and that's just not the case. Like, show me a woman who tells her man absolutely everything, every single thought that comes into her head.
Right. In fact, I think women will resent a guy that actually does that.
Exactly.
Women,
exactly.
I was watching, I don't know if you saw this. I was watching Myron's show last night, and he had like 3 girls that were on there. And one was this really kind of mouthy, I want to say she was Puerto Rican or something like that. And she was mommy, right? She's mommies. And then we had the redhead who was like 33 years old, who was aging out, who didn't realize she was aging out of the sexual marketplace. Actually, already is aged out of the sexual marketplace. And then you've got this sweet little innocent girl who's late for Bible study that's on the other end. And it was a really interesting cross section, but like pretty much all of these women have very little clue as to what the environment that they're actually in, because every girl that comes through there has the same opinion. They have the same, they use the same language. I mean, almost universally uses the same language. They make the same mistakes. They subscribe to the same mythology. They say that everything. They're endlessly predictable.
They all think they're so unique.
Yeah, and like, oh, it's going to work out for me. Don't worry. At the last minute, the parachute's going to deploy, and I'll be all right, kind of thing. And so I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, there's such a, I don't want to say it seems like I've called it hubris before. I mean, there's such this sense of entitlement, but it's also this, I'm in a position of power right now, so I don't need to understand this. And the point I was making here is that, like, whenever Myron or anybody else explains it in rational, reasonable terms, then it conflicts with that. And that's when women kind of like they go into vapor lock, right? They don't know what to do with that information. Now, when they're on Twitter, that's easy. They type in, whatever the woke, mythology is at that particular time. But when they're put on the spot right there, it's like they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. Look, it is what it is. Thank you, Aussie Guitar Man.
Thank you, Aussie Guitar Man. Yeah, I was gonna say, I had to throw that one up there real quick. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I think that today we have to be extra careful, because you're going to end up getting retroactively Me Too'd. And on top of all that, I think that a lot of people are thinking that, the red pill is going to have like a PR problem or whatever. And I think in some cases it is. And some people are trying to embrace it and sort of turn it into whatever it is that they want it to be. But then you have other people who are going to get rocks thrown at them, or maybe even accusations thrown at them, because you were the guy who created the last guy who got busted for sexual assault. Yeah. And it's hard. And I understand why guys are understandably, at least hesitant, cautious about things. Like, remember when Me Too was going on, and I think it was think it was Ariana Huffington, like it was on a Huffington Post, and they did this story about how men didn't even want to work with women in the workplace because they were concerned that if they were in a room with a woman alone, that is sort of like a security breach, like the potential of them getting Me Too'd because they were alone. Like was it powerful men hide behind open doors? I think that's what it was.
Yeah. Like Mike Pence wouldn't see a woman without his wife present. That kind of stuff. So, like, here's the ultimate. So this is some male feminist that jumped in on the conversation. So I put out this tweet down here, like talking about women associating sex with danger.
Hybristophilia.
Right? The idea of hybristophilia, grape fantasies, like we've talked about, and a few other things, right? And he comes back with like this. This is, as far as I'm concerned, the kind of guy who is not going to sexually assault a woman is the kind of guy who is interested in improving himself in the bedroom so he can please his wife or he can please his girlfriend. That's why guys are seeking this information out. It's not so they can go out and like assault people. It's so they can be better lovers. It's so they can please women.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the kind of guy who's going to go out and do something bad. The kind of guy who's going to go out and do something bad is a guy like this, who is so deluded in his perception of the world that he will snap eventually. And I'm going to read this out. So I said women associate sex with danger, right? And he's come back with, and this might sound weird, you treat women like they're people and show a little empathy, and they voluntarily tell you every single kinky submissive thought in their head. This has never happened in the history of the universe.
The history of the universe. Yeah, I know. It's funny is like the worst thing you can do with women is women never want truth. Well, they say they want the truth, but they never want full disclosure, and they're never going to give you full disclosure. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. In fact, that's a good thing, right? Women want mystery. They want to be able to unravel you. There's nothing that is more self-satisfying to a woman than to believe that she's figured you out based on her own intuition, based on her feminine, your mythological feminine intuition. Why is it that women go, and why is it that pre-selection and social proof is such a big deal to women? Because they're trying to figure you out. They're trying to figure out if you're the real deal. That's why they got to get their, do you want to bang him? Yeah. Do you want to bang him? How about you? Yeah, we all do. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to go out there and go after him because all my friends approve of you and they really want to get with you. And so it's like, it's this refining process, but that doesn't come like, you've probably heard me say this before, is like, if you subscribe to sort of like the Oprah Winfrey, Dr. Phil nonsense about like open communication solves everything. No, it doesn't, because observing the process changes the process. Women want to play the game. They don't want to be told that they are playing the game. They don't want to be, it's that observer effect. And then you get a guy like this, he's just falling in line with what he thinks should be the right way to think about things.
Yeah, what he's been told by following the narrative is that's the consent is sexy narrative, is like, just lay it all out on the line, and this is everything that I want, and this is everything that you want. And that's how it works. And it's
there's no tension. There's no urgency.
Yeah.
There's
zero sexual tension, zero mystery, no uncertainty. Uncertainty is something that women crave.
What do you? So, I mean, I don't even want to venture to guess what your notch count might be, but within all of that notch count right there, of the women that were the most memorable, or the best scenes you've ever had, or the best sex you've ever had, what are some of the elements of like that scene or that encounter, that time you got together, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be with somebody you worked with on camera. Maybe it was another girl that you were with, but like, what are some of the elements of that really like made it memorable? Let's just say.
I mean, I'd use the word chemistry, but chemistry is very hard to describe, right? It's something that's very, very hard to put into tangible terms.
Vibing, right? It's like try scientifically tell me what vibing is, Rollo, so I can put it in my notebook and figure it out the next time.
I mean, for me, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is like strong eye contact, like strong, unflinching, unwavering eye contact with the girl.
Pupil dilation.
Yeah, it's like the two of you. I'm just thinking back to like one scene where I had really great chemistry with the girl, and it was just like we couldn't keep our hands off each other all day. she was constantly checking me out. I was constantly I could tell she was checking me out when I'm talking to someone else, and vice versa. And then we're locking eyes the whole day. And it's like, and it was this build up of sexual tension because we're doing dialogue for like 3 hours before we shoot sex. So we've got 3 hours of just sexual tension, and then bang, it all came out on camera. So there's that. Like, it's the buildup of sexual tension that does it.
I think a lot of guys, and this was one of the things that I've always had sort of a problem with from the old PUA days, is like, I think too much emphasis was put on comfort and rapport. I'm not saying it's not important. It is, but I don't think it is as important as sexual tension, as the push-pull kind of thing, as the build-up side of things.
Yeah, because most guys naturally go into comfort.
Yeah.
That's their first response.
To get them laid. Yeah. They think that the more comfort, the better, right? Yeah. I can be comfortable with you to have sex. No, you have to have urgency and dread, really, is what you have to have.
Yeah, and it's, or like, there's a concept that doesn't really get talked about much anymore, which I brought up on my channel a few shows ago, and it's the idea of buying temperature. And buying temperature is when you sort of, it's basically like in a woman's emotional state, and certain things will pump a woman's buying temperature, and certain things will drop a woman's buying temperature, and like comfort and rapport tend to be something that drops a woman's buying temperature, and say like chick crack or like teasing or like jokes or physical touch. These kind of things will pump a woman's buying temperature, and when a woman's buying temperature is high, she's more likely to comply with your requests. She's more likely to, and that will physically escalate things towards sex. And
I think that even the old school PUAs used to say this as well, is that it's leaving that woman with an emotional imprint, like with a memory of you. I think that's one of the reasons why women always say, I need a guy who's funny, who can make me laugh. It's the act of making her laugh that is associated with that emotional impression of that guy. Oh, I every time I see him, I feel good because I know I'm going to laugh. Right. It's like your favorite comedian. Now, it's not like if that were the case, guys like, Danny DeVito or whatever, your favorite, name a stand-up comedian, those guys would be swimming in top shelf pussy all the time. It's not just that, but it is that association that he can make me laugh. He can twirl me on my toes, that kind of stuff. He takes me rock climbing. We went skydiving, that kind of shit, where it's like, there's that emotional connection that is an impression there. And I told guys this too, is like, it doesn't necessarily always have to be positive. It can be a negative thing too.
No. Women hate that. Women hate admitting they're more likely to go after the guy who's going to put them on an emotional roller coaster. Like the guy who she thinks might be cheating on him. Right. Who she thinks might be cheating on her. That's the kind of guy she's actually going to be far more attracted to and far more invested in.
But yeah, because what was it? I believe it was Mystery who said that a woman cannot fall in love with you or cannot feel like real, genuine desire or attraction to you until she feels jealousy for you, until she has an investment in you to the point where she doesn't want those other bitches to get with you. There has to be that in there before that woman can actually submit, can actually defer to you as a guy, to have some sort of, because you're the guy that other guys want to be and other women want to bang. And if that's like spelled out to her in no uncertain terms, then yeah, that's when you have, that's when you have women who again defer to that authority, but it's that investment, it's that jealousy. It's like, he's so high value that I want to make sure and ensure that nobody else can have this guy. Let me get into ML here. Says the more neutral women are raised, the more they will go for professions which are feminized. Is it possible that the more society is feminized, the more need for seduction and submission is going to grow?
Well, my theory is that
very old question, by the way, but go ahead.
Yeah, my working theory right now is that these sort of women openly expressing more desires for things of, say, a BDSM nature is a direct correlation or direct result, rather, of society like emasculating men. So women can't get that masculine feminine polarity in their everyday life like they used to be able to get. So the only place the only place left where it's acceptable for men to act masculine is the bedroom. So they're craving it more and more there.
I think I agree with you. Again, I hate to rewind the tape, but like going back to the old days, a lot of the old school PUA said exactly this, is that women are so starved for that innate kind of animal desire with that guy because everything's done for them. Like the beta buck side of hypergamy is taken care of more or less, or at least the perception that it has been taken care of for them. There's like an insurance policy for them that says, okay, ladies, alpha fucks, beta bucks. The beta buck side, we got this insurance policy. It's going to work out for you. So what do you want to do? Well, all these other guys are all focusing on the beta buck side of things, and they're only focusing, they really want to get a guy who is the alpha seed side of the whole thing. But they're married to the guy, or they're in some way attached to a guy who is trying to prove himself to be more attractive according to the beta buck side of hypergamy. And so when that guy tries to up the alpha a little bit, like women want that. They want that guy to actually, they can't say it, because if they say it, observing the process changes the process. If he doesn't just get it on his own, if a woman has to tell him, be more alpha, pull my hair, spit in my face, whatever it is, put your fingers on my mouth, whatever it is. If that guy has to be told to do that, that guy's not the guy for her. Because he's not naturally like that, because it goes against that existential fear. I'm not really with the guy that I want to be with. But yet they're craving that, because it's like, was it 365 DNI is a thing now? And you got, even you can go back, of course, 50 Shades of Grey, but you can also look at like things like the Twilight series. That's what they want. That's what they wanted then. That's what they want now. And as a result of them having to sort of consolidate on the blue pill side of things, on the beta buck side of things, that's what they tend to crave more. That's why you see women having more affairs. That's why you see women who, and again, it's because they want to get that kind of animal lust kind of thing that they're lacking in their lives at that time. Let me get Strails here. Says, my anecdotal evidence for women hating the red pill is because they lose power. Yes. We raised beta and became became alpha. The women who had me under their finger react violently towards my change in attitude. They disown me, but it felt great. Yeah, I mean, and that's I was talking about that on my Sunday show, about how when you change your mind about yourself, when you actually make you unplug from the matrix, the crabs are going to try to pull you back into the barrel.
Yeah.
Irish Alpha, have you seen Bill Burr's No Means No joke on YouTube? I want to do it, but I am afraid you will judge me, so I will pretend it is your idea so you don't figure out I have already performed this act with 40 other fucking people. Yep. Yeah.
Bill Burr's really good at encapsulating some of this bollocks.
Yeah.
He's really good at just at expressing it in a way that women have to even laugh at.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, K Ninja female viewers scrolling Stirling scenes for the high chemistry one. Are they looking for that one girl right now?
I'll tell you which one that one is. Go look for me and Candace Dare for Naughty America.
Candace Dare.
Yeah, big booty white girl. Like kind of girl.
I know you worked with Kiki Clout recently too. I was like, oh
yeah. Now, me and Kiki, here's the honest to God truth. Me and Kiki didn't really have chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the thing. It's like you can't, especially in my industry, it's really hard to tell who you're going to have chemistry with. Mm-hmm. Like her and I were having some fun in Myron's studio and whatnot when I first met her. And then we set up then she gave me a number and she was like, hey, let's shoot some content. I'm like, okay, great. We shot some content, but it was just, I mean, she's a good performer. Don't get me wrong. It's sort of like porn performers go. She's a good technical performer, but we just didn't really have any chemistry. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. No, it's no big deal. But that's the thing. You're not going to have that with every girl.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
I think familiarity is another thing. Do you think you would have had better chemistry with her had you not met her before, on the Iron Show? Do you think you would have things would have been different?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So there's a familiarity aspect that went along with that.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yep.
Oh, he's my bro. Oh, yeah. Okay, we're gonna fuck. Oh, okay.
I mean, I really just did it just so I could say I did it. If I'm being perfectly honest. Yeah. Bit of a laugh.
Yeah, just so you had it on the list. That's
Just sue me. Okay, fine.
So are you still getting more hate because of this? Because you are teaching guys this stuff? Do you think it's a regular thing that's going on right now?
Well, I got my first big backlash of hate back in December, and then I got my this is the second time around where it's happened, and so I've noticed that more and more people who we used to be mutual followers on Twitter, people who I've shot scenes with, have just either unfollowed me. Some of them have even blocked me, and I've had to go on blocking sprees on Twitter because it's just much easier for me to like. I'd rather see comments from guys who want my help or who are resonating with my message than seeing male feminists like the dude we showed earlier, or like whiny, like blue-haired land whales calling me a misogynist. I'm like, okay, great. Like, block.
You end up becoming the kind of caricature, I guess, of the guy you're taught to hate.
Yeah, and I don't like. I know that the people. Okay, if somebody is going to, from a purely marketing perspective, like a Twitter growth perspective, if somebody is following a blue-haired land whale feminist with all kinds of pronouns and letters in her bio, I don't think
not too worried
that person is going to be interested in the messages that I have to say. So I'm not really missing out on anything by blocking them. If anything, I'm just giving myself more peace of mind. No, like because like the less these people see of my opinions, the less they can about them to other people who might be on the fence about me. And it's like, okay, well, like, because no one has ever had a problem with me in person on set. It's only stuff I've said online that's pissed them off, and that has somehow overridden their face-to-face experiences with me, which is quite interesting. I think
it's interesting that like online right now, our digital consciousnesses is, I think people have, and this is no shock to anybody, I'm sure, but I think people have, I don't know. I think they feel like they have some sort of security and anonymity, even if it's just sort of, even if you know that person, you know you're going to see them next week. It's the fact that they're on that side of the screen and you're on the other side of the screen, and you can talk to them every day, but they're a different person when they're online. Like the guy who gave you grief, right? About you could just treat them like people, like. What gets me, I've had that. I've written articles about that. That's what's called the fallacy of individuation, which is, people are people. We're all just different. We're all just these chaotic, special snowflakes. Everybody's a unique individual. Nothing unites us. There's no commonalities, nothing whatsoever. No cultural thing. No, it's like blank slate social constructionism to the maximum, as the binary extremist of the binary extreme. And that's so when they say, well, you could just be empathize with them, try to, it's like, dude, you're thinking like a chick. You're thinking from an emotional, prioritized part.
And that's again, that's the thing. It's like this is how I know I'm speaking to someone who has the IQ of a piece of toast. They're just regurgitating all these same kinds of talking points. I'm like, oh god, this person is just not
whenever I get those like the same talking points. Like I was saying, the girls who came through Myron's thing, it's like it's so predictable every time.
Yeah, every time.
I need to do this. And if that guy, and whether it's a girl or it's a guy, like if this guy was throwing this at me, I would be probably face to face. I would probably do the same thing. Let's say, where did you learn that? Where did you come to understand that men and women should be equal partners, right? Where did you come to learn that women are, supernaturally empathetic, right? How did you learn that? Because I don't think certainly the women don't, but I don't think a lot of guys understand how they absorbed that or how they came to that belief set.
Yeah, I mean, it's only the kind of guys that question it that end up in this space.
Yeah,
you have to fundamentally question what you've been told. Well, first of all, you have to have the ability to recognize patterns, and then you recognize that what you've been told and what the world is don't match up, and so you start to question things, and that's when you sort of end up, like. Do you think it's?
Do you think that? And we got this question before. Do you think that it's that women are they're like I've spelled this out in evolutionary terms, that I think that when you teach guys to be better with women, it is a threat to women's sort of existential fear. But do you also think that it is a threat to gynocentric power. Like when women are in a certain age, the kind of women that most guys want to bang are right about 22 or 23 years old. We can see that statistically. We have hard data, empirical evidence that say that it doesn't matter if the guy is 15 or the guy is like 90 years old. Who he finds the most attractive is 22 to 23-year-old women, like across the board. So when a woman is 22 or 23, she is at the peak not only of her like sexual desirability, but she's also at the peak of her, I guess, sociosexual power, right? So when I always say, women's only real true agency is their sexuality, when is that agency at its peak? Usually between 22 and 23. So if you, Sterling Cooper, come along and start teaching guys how to get with those girls, the women who are 29 to 31 years old are going to be very upset with you because you're teaching them, because most guys aren't going to want those women in their demographic. They're going to want the woman who's 22 to 23 years old. And so therefore they have a problem with it, not just on a consensual basis, but from the perspective that they're going to lose power, that they're going to be selected out. So what you do is, and you're doing, now tell me if you believe this or not, but what you're doing is you're giving men first of all, you're improving their relationships with women. Got that. But you're improving their ability to select the women that they want to get with if they have that power to begin with.
Yeah, it gives you options. The ability to dick a woman down properly certainly gives you options. Certainly makes her think that you've got options because she knows that you've, like, if you come across as a guy who's like knows his way around the bed.
Are there guys in your industry that don't get this stuff, that don't know this? That like, are they just sort of like, they can't believe they're getting their dick sucked kind of thing? Or are most of the guys in there, like, do they understand women's nature?
Oh, they don't really understand women's nature.
No. Are there, are you in the 20% of guys that do, or is it like, what do you think the balance?
Like I'm like a tiny handful of dudes who actually, you would say, have any kind of red pill truth to their worldview. The rest are all kind of male feminists, or they don't really even think about this sort of stuff. They're just great. They're just happy that they're getting their dick sucked. And they don't really think about it.
So like the guys who you would characterize as being male feminists, are those the guys who are going to, would you expect them to like pull a woman's hair and take her from behind?
They still do that. They do, like, they do all the same physical stuff.
But they don't know why it's working?
Yes. Like, so they kind of, they understand female nature in the bedroom. But they don't make the connection between that aspect in the bedroom and that same nature in the real world. They don't make the connection like we do. That like, oh, she wants to submit in the bedroom, or maybe she wants a man to lead her in her life. Oh, heaven forbid, no. They can't make the connection between those two things and see that they're one and they're just two halves of the same coin.
So they'll defer authority outside the bedroom.
Correct. Yes.
So then when they are in the bedroom, would that not then make it an act rather than something that is genuine?
No, I think they're just genuinely having sex the way they want to have sex and the way that they know they get positive reinforcement for.
Like the reason the reason I'm asking that is because, like, so say for instance, you have a guy who doesn't know, he's like, help me, Sterling, help me get better in bed with my wife or my girlfriend or what are the girls that I want to get with. Help me. And you do. And so it works miracles for him, but he still hasn't made the connection that dominance in bed also has to be dominance out of the bed. Are you dealing with guys who are like sort of just playing the role that women want them to play in the bedroom, but yet when the lights come back on and they put their clothes back on, then nothing's changed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion that if you start being more dominant in the bedroom, it is going to eventually, if you keep doing it, it's going to eventually trickle into your regular life. Because, well, for a start, like if you're dicking your woman down properly, she isn't going to be as naggy. That's for damn sure. She ain't going to whinge and complain as much. She might actually start acting kind of pleasant around you during the daytime. I fundamentally believe that this is the correct, like, for guys who happen to be in a relationship that maybe they started off with the wrong frame, right? So they're sort of pushing a stone up a hill. I really think that fixing things in their bedroom is the first place they should start, because it's acceptable for them to lead there. They're not going to get the resistance from the woman that they would say. So they start putting their foot down in the house, like, honey, do the dishes. Honey, make me dinner. She's like, screw you. Like, she's going to resist it. But in the bedroom, she's getting rewarded for her submissive behavior.
Right.
Right. And so she starts to buy in to that role over time. And then that eventually can lead to the relationship frame starting to get fixed.
Do you think that has something to do with, like, I think after a point, and maybe this is just me spitballing here, but I think that at some point there is a point of valuation. Like, I've got a guy who really wants to rock my world, who really does rock my world now. Whatever changed in him. I have a problem, like, I've always run into this too, because I get guys, and this is not necessarily in the sexual sense, but this is in, like, sort of the red pill senses. I got guys who I've personally counseled who have been married or have been in long-term relationships, and they turned it on too fast, right? They're like, okay, bitch, I'm red pill now. Now you're shape up or ship out, giving them ultimatums kind of thing. And and women go, okay, don't worry, little boy, I'll do what you say. It's like when women are told by their church or their pastor or whatever, say, you need to let men lead. Well, the very act, or the very reason, like, you always have to say, allow him to lead in the house. That means you're already the authority. That means there's already that pre-established mentality that you have, that he's going to defer to you, and you're going to give him just a small measure of authority just so he can feel better. Or maybe you can feel better because you did that. You don't really trust him. You don't really want to fuck him. You don't really want to have your hair pulled by this guy because he's not really that guy. And I think that a lot of guys get into it too fast. So, like, I always tell guys, I said, I have a whole series, and people ask me to do a video series of this, and I'm going to. It's in my, I think it's my third book. It's called The Reconstruction, and it's guys who are in these really bad relationships, or they're in these bad, like, sexless marriages or whatever, and they're like, I don't want to leave my wife. I love her to death. Everything's great except she just won't have sex with me. So, like, what is it that you can change about yourself? What is it you can change, like, attitudinally, I guess, to sort of improve not only just your sex life, but also just sort of your married life as well? Certainly get in the gym, certainly learn your course. I learn how to dominate in the bedroom, but it's one thing to do that over the course of, months, rather than just like, okay, now I'm not Mr. Beta, I'm Mr. Alpha. And it's just simply not believable at that particular time. So do you have anything, like, when you're talking to these guys, do you tell them to sort of, like, do it sort of, intermittently until, like, sort of, like, escalated, and, like, you have sex this time and you did this thing, and the next time you go up a little bit and you go up a little bit?
Yeah, I teach guys in my video course, at least, I teach them, like, a sort of a gradual sort of sliding scale, so they can baby step their way across a lot, because they're not only kind of baby stepping the woman's, like, comfort zone in terms of, like, them being more dominant. That most of the time they're baby stepping their own damn comfort zone. Like, they're the ones that are uncomfortable actually leading and being more dominant in the bedroom. So they're the ones that they have to convince.
Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm wrong about that, though? Because and I'm thinking about this just right now, is that, like, it's my understanding, because I've had enough guys say, like, well, I tried what you said, I read your book, and she found out, or, like, they're like secreting away the rational male, like it's their porn stash or something like that, right? Like, oh, she found out my red pill material. And they get worried about that. But I think, do you think that if the guy just said, you know what, I'm just going to go in there, I'm going to pull her hair and do all these things that I'm pretty sure she wants me to do anyways, do you think that would be more successful? Because that's what these girls were worried about, right? I mean, wasn't it that, oh, these guys are going to get the wrong idea, and they're going to take advantage of women, and they shouldn't be taking advantage of their wives or their girlfriends or whatever else? Do you think? But what do you think the percentage of women who would respond to it and go, wow, that's great, yeah, let's go, finally?
Well, I get women DMing me saying, thank you. Thank you for teaching dudes this stuff.
I mean, can a guy go from, like, 0 to 60 in the first time he has sex?
I don't think so.
Would a woman respond to? Would a woman respond?
I don't think he can, because if it's a pre-established relationship and they've been having sex for, like, years or a year or something, right? already, and he's been a very tame vanilla guy for the last year. And then all of a sudden he barges in and starts like throwing her down and like pulling her hair.
Yeah.
She is going to resist. Like there's going to be resistance to that
Mm-hmm.
it's incongruent. It's incongruent with who he's been.
His character. Yeah.
His character. It's incongruent with his character. But he can build up to that. He can baby step his way back into that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So that, because I've said this on this show several times, is that the best sex that a couple is going to have is not when they have like date night and they're, the kids are with her sister and they're going to go have, the champagne suite at the hotel or something like that. It's going to be when you're just about broken up, or you have broken up, and then you come back and you have that makeup sex, because there's that urgency that goes along with it. Yeah. And that's when you can pin her to the bed and nail her hard, because there's that sort of emotional urgency and there's that kind of tension there that wasn't there before, and now it's there now. And
what
so
I teach,
like,
what I tell
somebody different,
what I tell guys is that a lot of, especially married couples, will sort of fall into like a routine and a habit with their sex lives. Mm-hmm. And that is, again, antithetical to like genuine desire and passion. Is like scheduling, okay, Wednesday night, it's baby making night.
Yes.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. That's not how arousal works. So what I'll tell guys is like, be spontaneous with your, with your passion. It's like if she's in the kitchen, like cooking dinner or something, wearing a skirt, come up behind her, kiss her on the back of the neck, pull the skirt up and go at it, mm-hmm. like, and you'd be surprised how well she will respond to that. She'll be like, oh, damn.
Yeah. Like, where did that come from? Yeah.
Yeah. Where did that come? That's the man I married. That's the man I fell in love with right there.
Mm-hmm.
The man who just grabs life by the balls. The guy who takes what he wants. The guy who like shows me that he is aroused by me.
The Lord of the house. Yeah.
Right. Like, and it's, and no, for any moron watching, no, it's. I'm not talking about like statutory grape.
Yep.
Or whatever. What statutory is it? Statutory? No. What's it when it's like with your husband or wife?
Marital grape.
Marital grape. It's not marital grape. It's obviously consensual. It's obviously I'm obviously I give men the benefit of the doubt. I give men I assume men have the ability to discern what a no is.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually teach them kind of how to gauge it. But that spontaneity is part of rekindling some of that passion in a dying bedroom.
Let me throw this up at you. Mamel says, Sterling, you talked about real male doms in BDSM. Are they different and more red pill in the industry?
It's a weird thing in the industry, man, because one of my mentors early on was a BDSM dom, and I looked up to him quite a lot, and now he hates my guts because of all the stuff I've been tweeting out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the weirdest irony. Like he was in charge of kink.com, the dungeon at kink.com. He was literally in charge of training all the slaves. Mm-hmm. A real kind of sadistic guy to a degree, like a great dom, but he's a massive feminist. Massive feminist, and I cannot for the life of me figure like that. That is some cognitive dissonance right there.
Do you think he does? Is that an act? Do you think he does that to sort of source?
It's genuine. It's genuine.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen him get into heated arguments over this in real life. Yeah, he's like genuinely blue-pilled, genuinely a blue-pill guy. But he understands that darker side of female sexual desire.
Mm-hmm. I one of the things that I don't think that like the girls who are giving you grief about like the consent stuff, I don't think that they realize that first of all, I understand why they're have anxiety about that, because they don't want a beta male guy to learn. You should know this kind of stuff. You should stay in your lane, so that the real alphas that I want to get with, who already get it, those are the guys who should know this shit. And they don't need Stirling Cooper or ROLLO TOMASSI to teach them any of this kind of crap. That I get that. I think that there's also the kind of social side of it too. Like it's what they're supposed to say. In gynocentric social, like you were saying before, this guy's, he's a dyed-in-the-wool feminist, although he's like, a dungeon master wherever at kink.com, right? Yeah. And so there's like, I've always, man, you're actually probably the best person to ask about this, because I've I've written about this in book 1, and I've sort of hinted at it in a few articles where when there's a few things in life where human beings like revert to like feral, like animal instinct, right? One of those is when you get in a fist fight, right? When you are fighting for your life, when somebody's shooting at you, somebody is like beating the crap out of you with the intent to kill you. That's when you sort of get into instinctive mode. You either are fight or flight, or you're just going to let it happen, or you're going to do whatever. You hope to God somebody saves you, kind of thing. But you're sort of in that animal. You're in the animal realm. Now, the other animal realm, of course, is sex. And so when we strip down naked and you're with somebody behind, in front of you. And so I think that when we convert from this animal instinct, which is the sexual side of things, that it's always been fascinating to me, where you can be like buck naked with this girl, and then 5 minutes later you're back to being civilized and you've got your clothes back on, and you're just like no, nothing happens, we're just here we are having tea, that kind of and do you see, because you probably experience that more than anybody else, because you make a living going from animal fucks to civilized, let's have a conversation. I'm a feminist suddenly,
Yeah, and we do it and it's on both sides of the sex. Because we don't really have the time. Sometimes there's very little time to sort of build up that sexual tension. So it goes from being like very formal to like, okay, time for animal barbarian sex, and then it's back to being formal. Mm-hmm. And it's
ever
weird.
Like awkward for you? Is that ever hard for you to do, to switch back?
Yeah, it's weird.
It's like, who are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I like seducing a like civilian girl is way more fun, in my opinion. Like meeting a girl and like taking her out on a date and bringing her home. Like that whole process for me is like, at least now, that whole process for me is a lot more fulfilling. Mm-hmm. Like the sex is more fun than the porn sex these days.
Because is it real? Is that why? Is that you? There's like work, and then there's like this sex.
Yeah, because that sex is for me. It's not for the camera. It's for me. I get to enjoy it. Get to do my thing.
Everybody asks female porn stars this, but I don't think enough people ask male porn stars this. Do you have relationships outside of like pornography? Do you have like a monogamous? Can you even in a monogamous relationship? Have you had?
I've dated girls who weren't in the industry, and they found it hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they found it pretty hard because they were cool with it for a while, and like 6 months in, they sort of lose their shit and they like can't handle it.
Mm-hmm. They try to get you out of it.
They tried an ultimatum. They tried an ultimatum thing. It's like, it's me all the job. All right, well, fine, see ya.
It's different. It might be different for guys. How old are you now? You're in your 40s, right? Or you're
34 now.
34. So you're not quite there, but still, I mean, you're certain, like a woman in porn at 34 is a rarity, right? I mean, unless you're doing like mommy porn or MILF porn or something.
Yeah, she's on the way out. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For guys, I mean, like you, I know you haven't been in it that long, but like if you go from like, say you got a guy who gets into the industry at 21, he can still work until he's what, like 40?
Mate, there's guys who are doing it in their 60s.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're good at the job, if you can do the job,
that's all they have to. Yeah, there's all they need to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's actually more of a demand for older dudes like me than there are for younger guys. So
really, wow.
Yeah.
All right, man. We are at an hour and a half. I didn't want to go too long on this one, but
can I really quickly before we jump off? Can I very quickly plug my brand new ebook, which is on pre-sale right now. It is the Ultimate Guide to Performance Anxiety. I will I'll quickly share this screen for you as well. So the guy, I just dropped a link in the chat there for everybody. But this is my this screen I just shared here, Rollo. Yeah, that's the one. Boom. My brand new book is on pre-order right now. It releases on Friday. It's the Ultimate Guide to Performance Anxiety, how to permanently eliminate your nerves in the bedroom. It is only $29 right now. It goes up to $69 on Friday, so get it now. But this is basically a compilation over the last year of me jumping on Zoom calls, me coaching guys one-on-one, me coaching guys through call-in sessions, YouTube, in my DMs, whatever it might be. Compiling the most common mental causes of performance anxiety that guys face and how to self-diagnose what the actual thing that is fucking with your head, and 2, more importantly, how to fix it. And this is sort of the exact process I use if I get on a call with a guy to figure out what's causing him to fuck up in the bedroom, and then how he can fix it. So I wanted to put this thing out there for guys who, there's a lot of younger guys who definitely couldn't afford like the several hundreds of dollars an hour I would charge for like a one-on-one coaching call. So this way they can get this shit solved and not spend the rest of their goddamn life, with this kind of anxiety looming over their head the whole time. So
cool.
Yeah.
Good. And do you have anything else coming up?
Not really. There's just
I need to get you. We need to meet up in Miami.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back in America in a couple of weeks.
Oh, really? Well, let's work something out. I think that'd be.
Let's do it. I'd love to.
All right, guys. This has been a really fun episode with you. Also, I will be doing a 30 to 40 minute recorded clip that will be coming out either tomorrow or Thursday. I haven't decided which. I just wanted to jump on with you. I was actually going to record this, but I thought it might be more fun to have people like sort of in the chat so we can talk about stuff. So that's it for today. I will see you guys on Wednesday, and Rule Zero will be back live on Saturday at 11:30 a.m. on Ryan Stone's channel. He's hosting this weekend, so look forward to that, and I will see you soon. Thanks, man.